What's going on, guys? UFC Vegas recap. A little bit better on the results this week, so happy about that. But yeah, I mean, judging's just so bad. If it's not your guy dislocates his shoulder like Junior Dos Santos after being up 2 rounds, if you don't have Alexander Rakic blowing out his leg after being up 2 rounds, you end up getting some Holly Holm decision, or you get a bad decision here and there, just questionable. Nothing's trustworthy these days, but it's gambling. Like, every sport's got bad bounces. We've had our fair share of bad bounces. Thankfully, this one a little bit better of a result. So 14 fights at the Apex as usual, just a weekly thing. And this is the kickoff of the first of 10 consecutive weeks. So good thing that the first one was good. And let's see how long we can take this thing, baby. Starting off from the bottom prelims, Aaron Blanchfield versus JJ Aldrich. Blanchfield's like a minus 400, minus 450 favorite. A little bit wide for women's MMA. Of course, we see this all the time. And this puts me in a hard spot because on one hand, I love Aaron Blanchfield. Like what she brings to the table. She's young. She's improving. Her striking's getting better. Her wrestling's good. Her grappling's good. And again, when you're 23 years old, every fight is a progression. You do see the progressions out of Aaron Blanchfield. But JJ Aldrich is in low-key a nice little sleeper pick. I mean, she usually cashes. Another fighter that makes a lot of improvements, but you usually get good plus money on her, even money on her. And again, here's somebody that traditionally takedown defense has been her issue, but her striking's pinpoint. It's on point. So the preview show, breaking this one down, we got Blanchfield going out there, being stronger, being more physical, being able to complete the takedowns. And once she does get the fight to the ground, she should have the grappling advantage. JJ will very likely have the striking advantage, but I call Aaron Blanchfield Aaron Blanchimont for a reason. She wants the takedowns. She's going to get the takedowns. Not so much the case in the first round. This would have been a really good live betting opportunity. I know some of the guys in my group chat were talking about how you could have hit it at minus 135 Blanchfield or minus 105 Blanchfield after that first round, but she couldn't get the takedowns. Not only could she not get them, but she wasn't really pressing the action for them. She seemed in that first round like she was content exchanging with Aldrich, even though Aldrich was a little bit faster, a little bit crisper, and was doing excellent jobs with the counterpunching, right? Every time that she would step in, Aldrich did a good job parrying one, countering one, touching her up with the left hand usually, but just adding up the points ever so slightly. Blanchfield did try for a couple takedown attempts, but couldn't get them. So at this point, we're in a bad spot, right? If Blanchfield's not going to get the fight to the ground, she's forced to stand. She's not technically sound enough to just outpoint JJ Aldrich from the outside. But here's the plan B, right? One thing that you have seen with Aldrich is sometimes she will start fast. She does have clean, smooth striking. But look at the Macy Barber fight, right? She wins the first round, but Barber just gets aggressive in the second, just marches forward. Even though she's countering, even though she's doing some pretty work from the outside, if you just bite down on your mouthpiece, close the pocket, and crash it over and over and over again, eventually you're going to be getting hit twice for every time that you hit her, but you can fluster her. You can move her back. You can cause her to make a mistake. And that's exactly what happened. Blanchfield just kept crashing the pocket in the second, being aggressive, starting to land a little bit more, starting to fluster JJ Aldrich, who was still fighting a good second round. But you could tell now all of a sudden the game plan was starting to change, and that frontward pressure was starting to break her and start to get to her. Something you have seen in the past, and something as people that were backing Blanchfield, we had her on the second line, right? We had faith in her. This is the adjustments that we need to make, right? One thing's not working, let's switch to the next. And crashing that pocket causes JJ Aldrich to shoot the takedown, get sloppy, and get snagged up in a guillotine choke. So one thing leads to another. Was it a clean performance from Blanchimont? Maybe not perfect. But young fighter developing, it's good to face adversity. It's good to maybe lose a round and have to make those mid-fight adjustments, which is something that she did. And for Aldrich, can't really take anything away from her. I mean, this is a loss to a highly decorated prospect and probably someone that's going to be a legitimate contender within the division. Aldrich is kind of gatekeeper status, but she's capable of giving a good out to almost anyone in the division. And she does have some serviceability to her game. But a setback nonetheless. If she wins this fight, it's a huge step forward for her career, and she's being looked at as a potential contender, but just not to be. Makes one mistake, and unfortunately, the sport of MMA not very forgiving. So not a great way to start the card. We've got a minus 400 favorite who is on our second line. We've got confidence in them, and just not as smooth as the line would indicate. But we were just looking for wins. We got the win. Not going to complain much more than that. Rihad Farkhadinov versus Andreas Michailidis. Went with the dog fly here on Michailidis, and it's right at the bottom of the PRP. Like I don't really have a whole lot of confidence here, but I'm intrigued by the fact that he started his UFC career at 205. He dropped down to 185 pounds. He's now fighting at 170 pounds. Farkhadinov, meanwhile, he's crushed a whole lot of cans, doesn't have a whole lot of quality victories. And I don't know. I didn't really think his grappling was anything special. I didn't think he'd be able to just lean on over and over. And again, with Michailidis, there was some question marks that I thought could have been positive question marks. Not really to be. I didn't think he started off terrible. Like Fakhretdinov fought like a Russian. I'll give him that. He comes from a Japanese hybrid martial art base called Kudo. And no, he was looking to wrestle. The guy's very strong, very physical. He got a rear waist body lock. He kept dumping Michailidis down to the base of the cage. Michailidis did a pretty good job of defending everything, trying to work his way back up. When it was standing, I thought for the most part, he did get clipped one time with the overhand right. For the most part, he's landing some decent leg kicks. He landed some okay knees to the body. And then he hits a reversal, and then he ends up on top briefly. He stuffs 2 takedowns. Like, he's probably losing the round still because he'd spent so much time up against the cage because he had been taken down twice, but he's defended everything. He's fought him back. It looks like he's starting to tire Fakhretdinov out a little bit. And beyond that, when he gets back up, he stuffs 2 takedowns. He lands some decent strikes. He did grab the cage about 35 times, but never lost a point, got through it. We're okay with this. I think we lost the first round. We're not sitting terrible. Again, it's just a flyer dog play. But maybe my read's onto something. The round ends. He gets up and starts walking to his corner, and he is exhausted. You can tell right there when he got up after that first round. Michailidis, I don't know, call it a bad cut. I would call it a bad cut more than he was unprepared. I believe he probably showed up in good shape, but cutting that extra 15 pounds from 185 down to 170, not to mention the fact that he made his debut at 205 pounds, like maybe the massive amount of weight that was cut. You see his chest. He's got a big chest on him. He's a big guy. I don't think 170 was the class for him. I think he's searching for something that wasn't there. He's tired of getting out muscled at 185, so he decided, I want to be the bigger, stronger guy at 170. The result was still not the bigger, stronger guy, and he was completely gassed after that first round. I knew right then and there this was not going to go good. And even though Fakhretdinov was a little bit tired himself, he just went back right to the same positions. He just grabbed a hold of him, tossed him to the ground, and would maul him on the ground. Progressively, Michailidis is just getting more tired and more tired. He's offering up less resistance. At one point, it looked like Fakhretdinov could maybe push the gas a little bit more, maybe force a stoppage. But he's not all that good himself. Like, this is a good UFC debut in the sense that he got the victory and he didn't take a whole lot of damage, but he's limited. He's limited, and he happened to be taking on a guy that gassed out after 5 minutes and didn't have much up to offer. And then for Michailidis, I would assume that this is the end of the road. You did them a favor by taking on Alex Pereira. You maybe won the first round against Alex Pereira, but you're a non-factor at 205, obviously. At 185, your striking's not there. Your wrestling's certainly not there. And now at 170, you're still getting taken down. You're still gassing out. All these different things. He comes from they said Greek. Like, he comes from a wrestling base and a kickboxing base. When you see him throw, it's wild, man. His striking is not sharp. It's not technical. I wouldn't say he has a kickboxing base. As far as his wrestling goes, his offensive wrestling appears to be non-existent. His defensive wrestling appears to be non-existent. He got up a few times in the first, but then he gassed himself out trying to do so. So I don't think he's going to be making any large improvements anytime soon. I don't think he factors in, unfortunately, in the division. The UFC's so watered down nowadays that they could match him up with somebody and get him the victory, but they're not going to do that for him. If they do rebook him again, it'll be against some other tough killer. And if not, expect to see this guy on a regional scene trying to work his way back up. Jeff Molina versus Zolagus Gulov. So Gulov is also down at the bottom ticket with Andrei Michailidis. Looking at the card, of course, there's always going to be some underdogs coming through. So who are the underdogs that we think have a shot? What are the fights that are closer to 50-50, but you can get good plus money? I thought Michailidis, totally wrong on that one. I also thought Zolagus Gulov. On one hand, Jeff Molina, we all love him. Throws crazy volume. The guy's got heart for days. He's got an excellent chin. He's a fighter's fighter, and I think he's got a very bright future. But he's showing some limitations to his game, and the areas in which he thrives and really, really shows us that this guy's a promising contender down the road. Maybe not going to be against lower level opposition. I think that's the biggest takeaway. You can fight a guy and you can punch him 200 significant times. You can take the guy down. You can out wrestle him. You can do all these things. But if it's a limited level guy, how much resistance was being shown? How much adversity did you have to put up with? How much these different X factors? So I thought Zolagus was a unique opponent in that he was the best wrestler that Jeff Molina had ever fought on paper. He was probably the best striker that Jeff Molina had ever fought on paper. He's used to fighting 5-round fights prior to signing with the UFC, so his cardio should be good. Guy just did get knocked out by Manel Kape. But that aside, his durability is remarkably good. Zolagus poses a whole lot of problems. So, I mean, the fight is just razor close. I think it really goes down to what your judging style is. On one hand, Jeff Molina is landing the better strikes. On the other hand, Zolagus is controlling him. He's got him up against the cage. He's trying to take him down. Whenever he would take him down, Molina would never accept the position. He'd scramble back up, right? Zolagus is not landing heavy ground and pound. Pressed up against the cage, he was landing some knees to the thigh, but Jeff Molina was landing short shots in the clinch as well. So it's very difficult to say. The natural assumption for everybody is that the guy that's initiating the offensive position and leaning on you is the guy that's winning, right? But it is a 50-50 position, very much so. So I kind of got a different, mixed feelings about this fight. On one hand, if you look back 2 weeks ago to the last UFC card, we had the Eric Anders fight, where Eric Anders quite literally just tried to lean on his opponent for 15 full minutes, not really trying to fight. And Dong Jung, meanwhile, is just trying to create some separation and fight him. That's all he's trying to do. He's trying to fight. He's trying to land strikes. He's trying to actually make this a fist fight, right? It's supposed to be entertainment on one hand. On the other hand, it's like you're here to do a job. Leaning on a guy up against the cage, it's bad for the sport if you're going to reward that, because a lot of guys are just going to do it, right? They don't care about $50,000 fight of the night bonus. They just want to win. They don't want to get released. They want to win. Second check. Move your career forward. And so what happens is you get these cool little striking exchanges and you get these, these cool little moments. And then the guy realizes, I'm just going to lean on him, and just presses him up against the cage. So the more that you don't give these guys the decision, the more they're coaches and they will realize, I can't just do that. The more it's going to evolve the sport to just be a little more entertaining, right? So in Anders' case, I did not score the fight for him because all he did was try to hold him up against the cage. And by the numbers, he got outstruck. So I had mixed results here. On one hand, I have Zolagus Zuma Gulov. On the other hand, my judging style does not score the fight for him. I think he's losing. I think he's trying to take down Jeff Molina. He's having trouble doing so. He's not landing a whole lot. The first round's close. I think I scored it for. I think I went first 2 rounds for Jeff Molina, third round for Zolagus. I think you can argue and debate any one of those rounds for being for either of the two guys. Jeff Molina himself, when they announced 30-27, is disgusted with it because he feels that he lost, because he knows he didn't win all 3 rounds. But again, I think it goes back to the fact that one guy was fighting the whole way through. Whenever they would separate, Zolagus would throw some decent strikes, but whatever Molina would land would seemingly get his attention. Molina didn't have the crazy volume in this fight that he's had in prior fights, but I just thought he did a good job of staying active the whole way. And even though I had the guy that lost, and it's a debatable split decision, and I should feel bad about it, this is what we like to call a give and go. I understand it was close. I understand it didn't go our way, and unfortunately, I'm willing to give. And then in the Joe Salecki fight, did he win? I don't think so, but that's the go. Give it back to me, right? So sometimes it's the ebbs and flows of things. I'd rather lose the Zolagus Zuma Gulov decision than lose something up the card that kind of mattered a little bit more. But I still don't think it was a terrible dog pick, right? Plus money. It was a 50-50 fight. You run it back 10 times. It could go 5 either way. It just really depends on what you're looking for the judging criteria. Tony Grayley versus Johnny Munoz Jr. Like Tony Grayley, like the price tag, really good, -120. Money was coming in on Johnny Munoz Jr., but again, who's got the wrestling advantage in the spot? Well, Tony Grayley. He wrestled at Appalachian State. Guy's got some decent enough collegiate wrestling credentials. He's an awesome athlete. Trains out of the best gym in the world, out of American Top Team. Boxing, tight, technical, getting better. He does have momentarily lapse in fight IQ, and he does have potentially questionable cardio. But you look back at his last fight against Oliveira, he's shoring up a lot of those issues. He's conserving himself a little bit more. He's not just exploding and trying to get you out of there in the first round and taxing his own cardio as a result. His wrestling's still on point, but he can get on top of you and he can neutralize you, avoid all submissions. It just seems like this is a real good stylistical clash for him, and it's a really good price to boot. It's not like Munoz fights very often. He's had 2 fights in the UFC. He's been there for 2 years, so it's hard to say how much he's really improving. Also, one thing I wasn't a whole lot impressed with, where they were talking about his dad. Well, the reason why he got into martial arts is his father, martial artist. His dad owns a small little gym in California, and Junior mostly spends his time in the small little gym with Dad in California, and then was going down to Entrom in Tijuana, Mexico, and getting some sparring rounds against some Mexican boxers. So, none of this is going to bode well against a fight with Tony Grayley. But if you've ever bet Tony Grayley before, he's prone to just shitting in the apple pie. So, as much as you do like him, you couldn't have him that high up, but even in my wildest dream, no, I guess it was a possibility. there was a possibility he was just going to walk out and knock Munoz out. I just didn't see it going down like that. Munoz, pretty good chin, hadn't been knocked out, shown some pretty decent durability. Grayley's got power, but again, I think he's going to use his wrestling and play it smart, neutralize him, avoid the submission attempts, and grind him away. But Graveley's got legitimate power. I mean, he almost knocked Nate Maness out senseless in the first round, broke the guy's jaw before, again, making bad mistakes later as the fight went. But the guy's got legitimate power in his hands. And I think when Johnny Munoz dipped his head to try to avoid the overhand, he didn't realize that there was a cocked little uppercut waiting for him, and it just smashes him. He's down. He's out before he hits the ground. Really clean win by Tony Graveley. Tony Graveley's one of these guys, if you do watch him at his best, he can legitimately fight a lot of the guys in the division. And 135 pounds, best division in the entire sport. But he's got everything you would need from a guy. He's got good boxing. He's got power in his hands. He's got slick wrestling. His athleticism is off the charts. He trains at a wicked good gym. He's an experienced fighter. He's got over 25 professional fights. He's got all the stuff that you would want. And then it's always just been his cardio and potentially his ring IQ. If he can shore those two things up, again, he's a problem for a lot of the guys in the division. And I think he does have a promising future where he'll factor in with these guys, give them some entertaining fights. Will beat some guys, will unfortunately get beat by others. I don't think he's top 5, but I think he's got all the skill set of a guy in the top 10. And I think he, again, he's got the skills of a top 5 guy. I just don't know that he'll realize it. All the same, good, legitimate prospect for Johnny Munoz Jr. Losing to a good, legitimate prospect, I won't fault you much for it, but you effectively got knocked out in 1 minute and 8 seconds. No one really saw it coming. You're 1-2 in the UFC. You fight once a year. The improvements weren't there. This is your first KO loss. There's a lot of reasons why you might not want to back Johnny Munoz until you see some actual results out of him in the future. Benoit Saint Denis versus Nicolas Schultz. This is a flat out bad read. So I don't mind saying when I'm way off. I don't mind getting the fight wrong with being well, I'm close. Zolagus for Jeff Molina. I don't really feel bad about that. I was close. Andreas Michailidis, he looked okay the first round. I couldn't realize that he was going to completely gas like that, but dropped down to 170. I guess I should have at least had my suspicions. I can kind of make excuses there. This one I can't. Benoit Saint Denis showed in the fight with Zaleski dos Santos in his debut that he's got an incredible chin and that he got dropped so many times, hurt so many times that, he was able to persevere. He's got heart for days. He's extremely strong and took that fight on short notice. And he, in some ways, gave Zaleski dos Santos a pretty stiff fight. So Zaleski dos Santos is at one time a top 15 guy. He's credible. He's fought in some of the better guys in the division. To fight that guy tooth and nail, hard, on short notice, you knew Benoit Saint Denis was probably going to be a lot better in this fight than he was in the last one. And then for Nicolas Schultz, he's shown us nothing in the UFC, but I was kind of chalking that up to bad matchups, just the certain guys that he was fighting. He got clipped early. He got held up against the fence against Ramazan Ameev. Maybe you can give him a pass in those situations. But you knew going in, and I think I really should have paid more attention, that Benoit Saint Denis is very physically strong, right? Does come from a wrestling background, but is very physically strong. And with Stoltz, it seems like physicality is what he's lacking. He's kind of tall, he's kind of skinny. The guy's obviously in shape, but it just doesn't look like he's very physical. And knocking out Benoit Saint Denis, very difficult, obviously a very difficult task to render this man unconscious. So what was going to happen? He was probably going to close the distance, get a hold of you, and use that physicality and strength. As far as his cardio went, he went 15 full minutes against Zaleski with a grade 3 concussion on short notice, and he still fought the 15 minutes. Full camp here, easier opponent, not hurt right off the get-go. It all made sense. I had one flash of moment where Stoltz threw a knee right early in the first round, and it did clip Saint Denis and opened up a pretty nasty cut under the eye, but he didn't get knocked out, and that was the one moment. They were either going to stop it due to a cut or that knee was going to land flush and knock him out. When neither of those two things failed to materialize, it was a beatdown. It was a beatdown from Benoit Saint Denis, who just systematically beat away at him. It should have been a first-round rear naked choke, but the buzzer goes. If there's 1 second left in that first round, it's done. And then in the second round, you just same position, got an easy takedown, took the back, grinded him up, went to the face crank. Stoltz would do this thing where he would just, instead of fighting the hands, instead of just trying to create space for his neck, he would pop his own head up to turn into you or something. I don't know what he was trying to do, but he did it on 2 occasions. First time, he almost gets choked out. Buzzer goes. Second time, he does the exact same thing. And there's 3 minutes left. So Good win for Benoit Saint-Denis. He's going to have a lot of fun, entertaining, exciting fights in the UFC, I believe. I think his limitations are still there. I don't think he's got like a super high ceiling. And then Stoltz, 1-2 in the UFC. Sorry, 0-3 in the UFC. This would likely be it for him. He doesn't really seem to have the skills to stay at this level. And even though he signed a 4-fight deal, it's completely plausible they bring him back for one more kick at the can. The UFC is not inclined to give a guy a favor. They're 0-3, don't really have a visible future in the division. It's kind of like, oh, one more fight on your deal? Great. You can fight some Russian killer that nobody else wants to fight. Because it's the last fight on your deal. Do you want to get released or do you want to try for the Hail Mary? Guys usually go for the Hail Mary, but Stoltz, unfortunately, big-time limitations. Damon Jackson versus Daniel Argueda. So the way we build the parlays this week, right? We go with Alonzo Menefield, who just, fraudulent matchup at the top, and we go with Damon Jackson. Now, why did Damon Jackson come over Aaron Blanchfield and Movsar Evloev? Well, Blanchfield's a woman, so women's MMA has got a crazy way of just shitting in your apple pie, and I did not want to put that on the top ticket. And then with Movsar Evloev, yeah, he was a big price tag against a guy, Dan Ige, that's, fought stiff competition and maybe had a few tricks up his sleeve. But with Damon Jackson, there was no uneasiness there. It was Damon Jackson's going to win this fight. He's got a full camp. He's a legitimate fighter. He's putting in the work, making improvements, ground games. Better than Daniel, his opponent, Daniel Argueda. He's got a better ground game than him. He's got better striking than him. He's got better cardio than him. At least I maybe thought at the time. That proved to be a big lie, fairly big lie. But yeah, he seemed like he should have been the rightful big favorite. He's a top ticket guy. I'm not overly worried about it. Daniel Argueda, he's moving up a weight class. He's on short notice. He's never been tested like this. He just fought 5 rounds ago. Like a month ago, he went 5 rounds. So none of this adds up to good times for him. And fight starts. Damon Jackson walks in. He lands a couple decent shots. He presses him up against the cage. He goes double underhooks, body lock, picks him up, dumps him effortlessly. On the ground, easy transition. Puts both hooks in, switches to a body triangle, starts fishing the rear naked choke. This is as straightforward and easy money as it gets. This is what we all assumed was going to happen, and it's happening. Only he can't get the rear naked choke, right? And it's not as if he's exerting himself trying. It's that when you have the body lock on for that long, that body triangle, it does eventually start to zap your own legs. And it seemed like he started to deal with some calf issues. It started like he was physically just starting to tire a bit, and he tried so many rear naked chokes that you're exerting energy trying to squeeze on them, but every time you don't get it, I think it's also kind of like mentally, it's like, oh man, I didn't get it. Oh man, I thought I had that one. Oh man, it's frustrating. You're going to start experiencing adrenaline dump. So there's 45 seconds left in the round, and finally Argueda explodes, scrambles. When he switched off the body triangle to just loose hooks, double hooks, it was like kind of loose and lazy. His legs are probably a little bit fatigued, so he eases up. That one moment he eases up, that's when Argueda explodes, ends up on top of him, and just starts chopping away with some shots. Not enough to steal the round back because he had been not dominated, but positionally held down for 3.5 minutes to this point, 4 minutes to this point. It's not enough to steal the round back, but it gives you the vibe that this kid's in good shape. He's hungry. He's chomping at the bit. He's ready to go. And Damon Jackson couldn't choke him. He had his best position. He was all over this guy. He couldn't finish him. This is a problem. One guy is now starting to trend downwards. Argueda looks like he's heating up. And he's got confidence. Oh, I got taken down. Oh, he took my back. Oh, he spent 4 minutes trying to choke me out, and he couldn't. It's a confidence builder for a young fighter. So I'm not feeling good about this going into the second round, but what can I do? We're mid-card. We're still in the prelims. I can't pull the shoot. Can't get out of my bets. It's like time to ride or die. So Safe Saud does an excellent job telling Damon Jackson, listen, just go back right down to the wrestling. He's got nothing for you. When you're on top, you're safe there, go back. But he does tell him, hey, the way that first round ended, a bad judge could have maybe potentially given it to him for the last 45 seconds. So be smart, go in there, do your thing. Damon Jackson goes in, same thing. He gets the takedown. He goes right to a body triangle. He spends the majority of the second round on top. This is a clean Damon Jackson round. But he is exhausted. And the way Daniel Argueda gets up, the body language, he's feeling good. He's feeling himself. And he knows he now has 5 minutes to end this fight. Whether or not you think the last 45 seconds of the first round, he's down 2 rounds, okay? He got dominated positionally in the first, having a guy on your back for 4 minutes. How did you win the round? And in the second round, that was a straight-up route in terms of he had really little to offer. This is 2-0. You got to go for it. The Safe Side knows Damon Jackson's tired. He gives him an excellent pep talk. Listen, I know you're tired, but, a couple of F-bombs in the mix. You got to get after it. You got to go. You got to fight. This is it. Time to fight. don't give me these excuses. Nothing else matters. Get after it. And that's the right advice, because Damon Jackson's gas tank is officially running on empty, right? So what's going to bail him out in this situation? He needs to survive for 5 minutes, and he has no cardio left, and his chin's not great. So it's not like he can just get battered for 5 minutes and take it. The only thing that's going to save this man at this point is his motherfucking heart. That is it. And that's what he uses. He goes out on autopilot to start that third round. Right away gets punched in the face. Right away has to block a head kick. Right away gets smashed with a pair of elbows. He looks wobbly. His body language is awful. He does not look physically strong enough or has enough zip left to just grab a hold of him and toss him to the ground and get that takedown, try to kill time. He's a sit and duck, but he never at no point accepts anything. He moves his legs. He tries to circle out. The motherfucker throws a head kick, and then he lands a right hand. And then all of a sudden, it's like he's not catching a second wind. It's like his heart is just like, we can do this. We can do this. You land something, you glance something. He starts actually outstriking Argueda ever so slightly. Starts pulling his way back into it ever so slightly. And then Argueda, who's now flustered, like, oh shit, I thought I had this guy dead on his feet, presses up against Damon Jackson, up against the cage, and tries to take him down. That decision, dude. You need a knockout, right? I think we can all agree you need a knockout. And you've landed some decent shots and some elbows standing. He's tired. He's an autopilot. He's fighting. And Daniel Argueda, who's still 8-0, he's still green. He's still young. He still needs to make mistakes. It came down to a dogfight in that last little 3-minute exchange. It was like, who is going to persevere and pull? Daniel Argueda was the one that initiated the takedown. That's bad advice. That's bad game planning. This is a dogfight. Stand in the middle and let it go, kid. This is what you got. He tried to kill the time by pressing his opponent into the cage. And Damon Jackson uses the position to get a takedown of his own right away. Ends up a good little scramble, but Damon Jackson wants it more. I have nothing but respect for him. Not because he saved the ticket, not because, listen, he's a minus 650 favorite and he looked like he was, I don't know, minus 175 at best. Like, all that aside, there was a moment in the fight where it was like, you're going to fucking do this or you are not going to fucking do this. And he ballsed up and he did it. 25th pro fight. He's got the experience. Experience is supposed to matter in fights. And in this case, it did. He did exactly what he had to do. I know Argueda's corner was kind of talking shit near the end of that third round. And they were getting into a safe side, basically being like, oh, boring. Nobody wants to win this way. No. He broke your will and he did exactly what he needed to do to secure this victory for himself. So hats off to Damon Jackson. It wasn't pretty. It was greasy. It most definitely was greasy. But again, he pulled up when we needed him to. So moving forward, should he be this kind of a big favorite over anybody in the division? Likely not. Likely not. He does have the skills. He does have stuff that makes him a good fighter, but you get stretched tooth and nail against a debuting guy that took the fight on a week's notice and jumped up a weight class. We have to maybe taper off expectations. It could have just been a bad night. Maybe it's just an off night for him, considering how good he looked against Quella Kirk compared to how he looked here. But I mean, that's the fight game, right? Maybe you don't always feel yourself come fight time. You need to make the adjustments. And I was proud that he was able to make those adjustments. Joe Salecki versus Alex Da Silva. Talked about it in the preview show. Bad gut feeling about this fight. Da Silva doesn't fight very often, like once in a while, maybe once a year. And he effectively is 1-2 in the UFC. So it's not like he's had a very good run. It's not like he's been able to show off a ton. But what you do see out of him is everything you'd want from a fighter. He's a great athlete. He's in good shape. His wrestling's pretty strong. Not bad for a Brazilian fighter especially. Yeah, there's variables to him. Striking seems okay, and he's only 26 years old, so time away from the sport isn't necessarily going to cause him any hindrances. He might be getting better. He might be making improvements. He might be getting more comfortable, but you'd like to see the ring time to really gauge how much better is he actually getting, and in his case, it just wasn't quite there. Salecki, meanwhile, we know he can't strike, and for the most part, his wrestling's not all that great either, but good jiu-jitsu, and I don't know why I thought that would be enough just to win this fight. Bad gut feeling, but we ended up siding with Joe Salecki, thinking the grappling eventually has just got to cause something. Like one thing with Da Silva in his debut against Yakovlev, he starts off really good, but then he tires and he makes a lot of mistakes. In the Brad Riddell fight, he wins the first round positionally. He's got all over him, 3 takedowns in the first round, and then he kind of tires and he makes some mistakes. I expected him to come out hard early against Joe Salecki, maybe win that first round, but then he's going to start making mistakes, and that's when that grappling from Joe Salecki would take over. So the first round, it went exactly kind of how I thought it. Well, in ways, I thought Da Silva would be very competitive in the first and win the first, and then maybe it would be a good live betting opportunity for Salecki, or maybe Salecki would rally back and come through, and the kid would start to tire. Not so. This was a very difficult fight to score, maybe as close to score or harder to score than the Jeff Molina Zuma Gulov fight, for different reasons, of course. But the first round, how do you score that? Okay, the round starts, they exchange, 30 seconds in, Joe Salecki gets dropped, right? Clean knockdown scored by Da Silva, which is very effective. He hits the ground, Da Silva gets on top of him, spends the next 4 minutes on top. Okay. So you got a knockdown, you got 4 clean minutes of control time. I score the round as a 10-9. But the only reason I'm bringing this up is because how the second round ends up being scored, right? This round ends up being scored as a 10-8 for Joe Salecki, and then a point deduction makes it a 10-7. What was more dominating in that second round? A bunch of failed submission attempts or getting dropped in control for 4 minutes? Were they both not 10-8 rounds? Were those both not 10-8 rounds? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're both 10-9 rounds. All I'm saying is that Da Silva had a great first round in comparison to Joe Salecki's second. But yes, in the second round, Joe Salecki does get the fight to the ground, body triangle, attempting submission attempts. None of them stick. None of them really seemed all that close to sticking. Da Silva loses a point because of the cage grab. And so now, at the very least, we're getting a draw. Like, Joe Salecki's probably not going to get knocked out in this third. Because of that 10-8, because of the point deduction, it's like we're going to get a draw out of this if he loses the third. If he wins the third, we're good. And then he loses the third. I'll admit he's another guy, in a way, maybe like a Damon Jackson, is he was trying to get by on heart in the last 3 minutes of that third round. But he's tired. His body language was bad, and there's no zip. There was no touch. He would maybe touch Da Silva 1 or 2 times, and Da Silva would just rock him right back with a good counter shot. The effective striking was Da Silva's. Joe Salecki shoots a takedown, easily gets stuffed. Da Silva ends up on top. Salecki ends up back up. He throws 2 bad shots. He gets punched up again. He shoots another bad takedown. He ends up on the ground. He definitely lost the first round, and he definitely lost the third round. So, I mean, this fight's a draw. This fight's a draw. This is what it probably should be scored. But I don't know. Like, I checked the internet quick, and like a lot of people had either Salecki winning or the draw. But I didn't understand how they had Salecki winning. And then so what it ended up coming down to, well, one of the judges, maybe Saul Diamano, did he score the third round for Joe Salecki? Like, I don't know. But the other people, and I won't fault them on this, is that they had scored the second round as a 10-8 round for Joe Salecki, plus the point deduction, makes it a 10-7 round, and that's why Joe Salecki won, which would be fair. My only question is, without the point deduction, was Joe Salecki's second round a 10-8, but that first round was not a 10-8 for Da Silva? What's the criteria there? Doesn't matter, though. I don't care, because I have Joe Salecki. He's on the third line. I think I got a bad decision in the Zuma Gulov fight, potentially. I don't really think it was a bad decision, but close, but the split didn't go our way. This one was close in a very different way, but it was close. Did go our way. So I can't complain too much when we don't get the bounce. I ain't going to complain at all when we do. So what can you say? But the limitations from Salecki were on display. Like, his striking, we all know, not good. He's never won really any large chunk of striking time against any of his opponents. I mean, he got beat up by Jared Gordon standing, got beat up by Alex Da Silva standing. His wrestling's still not good enough to take down a vast majority of the guys. And his jiu-jitsu's good, BJJ black belt, but he's not one of these Ryan Hall types. He's not one of these, just like a straight up Brian Ortega, a guy that just, if the fight hits the ground, you are likely in an absolute world of shit. It's like, yeah, he's good BJJ black belt, but guys have had him. Jim Miller, he was back by Jim Miller on his back, couldn't get nothing to go. The Jared Gordon fight, he was on Jared Gordon's back, had the position he wanted, couldn't get it to go. He spent a whole 5 minutes on Da Silva's back here, couldn't get it to go. So the fade for Joe Salecki is definitely right around the corner. Thankfully, it wasn't last night. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, oh yeah, and for Da Silva, like I keep saying it, still only 26. The skill's definitely there, Could he have thrown more? Yes. Could he have done a little bit more? Certainly. But I wouldn't write him off just yet. Like, he's really not all that bad. But he's 1-3 in the UFC. It doesn't look pretty. In fact, it looks real bad. I would hope the UFC keeps him because of the close enough nature of this fight. Him losing a point is definitely a bad look. But if they do happen to rebook him, and they give you an okay line on the basis of dude's 1-3, blah 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 blah. It's like he'll play spoiler against somebody. Like, he's not a complete write-off. He's not bad.
UFC 275 is stacked. Step into the octagon with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Knockout, submission, or even judge's decision. No matter who wins the fight or how the fight ends, new customers can bet $5 on UFC 275 and get $150 in free bets instantly. Looking for a big payday? Check out DraftKings Sportsbook newest UFC feature, Same Game Parlays. Oh yeah, combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, number of knockouts, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Right now, you can play Same Game Parlays for Saturday's fight, and if it hits, you'll double your winnings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP. Throw $5 on UFC 275 and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's code DOP this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Karine Kowalkiewicz versus Felix Herrick. I am a coward. I should have just remortgaged my house and put the whole thing on Karine Kowalkiewicz. But things like that don't tend to work out for you in the long run. Short run, sure, you can make some good money in the short run. Long run, don't be stupid. And, betting anything significant on Karine Kowalkiewicz, who seems washed, doesn't seem mentally in it. It's on a 5-fight losing streak. You had to taper off your expectations. But a big part of previewing fights and making predictions and all that, and I know a lot of people do it. Everyone's got a channel these days, right? So you look at the tape and it's like, that's when you start to see some truths. Sometimes you need to stretch it. Sometimes you need to go on some narrative. Well, this is how they looked, but it's 2 years ago. And this is how they looked, but they were dealing with a foot injury. And you kind of put the other pieces into place. This one, all you had to do was just watch the tape. And tape would suggest everything you need to know. In fact, just watch the last time they fought. Now, why is it significant is because neither of them really made any improvements since the last time they fought. So you're going to get a very similar version of that. And the version of that is Felix Herrick cannot take down Karine Kowalkiewicz. Better than that, Karine Kowalkiewicz is better on the ground than Felix. So one, Felix can't take her down. And then two, even if Felix could take her down, she would just end up getting swept, reversed, submitted. She was not the better grappler. She's not the better wrestler. Okay, well, now we need the striking. We need the striking. Well, here's the problem, is that she's not the better striker. You've seen it in the first fight. Karine doubles her up on the striking count, and you've seen it in subsequent fights, whereas Felix Herrick's striking has not ever been good in the UFC. It was good when she was fighting for XFC back in the day. It was good when she was fighting in, Bellator prelims back in the day. She was known as the little bulldog, American kickboxing champion, but it's not up to snuff. Karine was going to win the fight standing. She was going to win the fight on the ground. She's going to win the fight everywhere. And in terms of, well, what if she was to gas out? They're 115-pound women. They don't gas out. Well, what if she was to get submitted by an armbar from guard? Jessica Panay did it, and it's women's MMA. Armbars from guard are always live. That's fair, but I don't got the faith in Felix Herrick to be the person to do that. So everything on paper, everything in your head, everything in your gut, everything said Felix Herrick's going to lose this fight. And Felix Herrick, the betting favorite. But it's women's MMA. They combined for 8 straight losses. As much as you wanted to just love it, you had to taper off expectations. And then when I watched it go down, as effortless as I thought it was for KK, I wish I loaded up. But that's a hindsight thing, right? Karine did everything that she suggested she would do in the pre-fight. She was a better striker than Felix Herrick. She was a better wrestler than Felix Herrick. She's a better grappler than Felix Herrick. She had better heart, better stamina, but she had better everything. Everything was better on that night. And then Felix Herrick drops the gloves right in the middle of the ring. So had Felix said pre-fight, this is my last fight, or, hey, I don't know how I'm going to fare in the UFC coming back after this layoff, but if I lose and I'm non-competitive, this is my last one, everybody would have loaded up on Karine. Because nobody announces their retirement pre-fight and wins. Paul and I talk about it all the time. And whenever guys like, this is my last fight and I'm calling it done, don't bet them. Don't bet them. Mine's checked out. Felix, she's got runs on OnlyFans. She's a fitness model. She hasn't fought in a few years. Mentally checked out. And I suppose if you would have known that part, maybe that would have caused to just drop the hammer. But I felt really good about the read, but then felt embarrassed that didn't go bigger on it. But that's okay, because I loved Alonzo Menefield versus Askar Mazarov under 1.5. Menefield inside the distance. Menefield by TKO. All of that. And unlike this women's MMA match, which I have that little bit of uneasiness with, this is Alonzo Menefield. Why would you put this guy in your top ticket? Are you kidding me? Zoe? Don't do that. It's like, I have to. Comes a time in a man's life where you're either going to put your big boy pants on or you won't. I love this stylistically. It all comes down to the tape. You got to watch the tape. Tape is king, right? It's really going to reveal to you all the truths that you need to know. And on paper, it's not on tape, but on paper, yeah, dude, this Askar Mozarov knocks out a lot of guys in the first round. He's big, he's strong, he's got huge traps on him. Looks like he's probably on the juice before he signed with the UFC. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy fail a drug test. He's going to come hard. He's going to throw caution to the wind. All that stuff makes it a little bit dangerous, right? But he didn't seem to have the cardio. He didn't seem to have the heart. He didn't seem to have the ground game. He had got caught lying about his resume, and he had lost a lot more than he said he did, and he had won a lot less than he said he did. That BYB bare knuckle boxing match that apparently he had in Russia in his last fight never happened, right? The guy's story is fraudulent. His skill set is fairly fraudulent. But he did come to fight. Like, his plan was to bum rush Alonzo Menefield and knock him out, or himself get knocked out. So I will give him that. At least he was willing to go out and do the damn thing. Whereas Alonzo Menefield just had to be smart. And he was smart. The first round, he lets Mozarov just get a little too close. He touches him up with an overhand right. I thought that right hand could have done the job right there. But he catches him surprised and then blast double. Bam, right to the ground, gets on top. They start out really good. At this point, I am rubbing my hands. I told everybody how easy this was going to be. Look how easy this is. You feel good. You feel good. Then it just so happens that we actually have Alonzo Menefield in this fight. And Alonzo Menefield isn't good either. So he gets the easy takedown and effectively does shit with it. He sat in guard. He didn't try to pass. He didn't try to ground and pound. He did absolutely nothing with the position. Herb is warning him over and over, you need to work. You need to work. He's not doing anything. I get we're trying to tire this guy out, take him out of the first round, then we're going to beat him. I get all that. But you got to work him a little bit, right? You can't just take him down and hold him there. Pulling an Eric Anders, my God. Anyways, I'm not feeling great about it. On top of that, we've got the violence bet. We've got under 1.5. And Menefield is effectively just letting the clock tick away. So finally, his corner tells him, listen, posture up. Okay, when you posture up, he's going to break the guard. When he breaks the guard, pass. That's exactly what happens. He postures up for a second. Mozarov opens the guard. He pushes down. He gets over to a half guard, a little bit of a better position, can land a few shots, but it creates a scramble. Now, Mozarov gets back up and just starts chucking bombs. That left hook he threw missed Menefield. He might have been by a foot, right? It might have been not so close. I don't know. I'd have to watch it back a few times. But had that shit landed, he threw down. I'll give him that. You can call him this man a fraud, right? But you can call him a fraud through a fucking webcam. You think I want to call that guy a fraud to his face? No. Holy shit. He had a big old neck tat. He came to fight. Unfortunately, that was all he had, was just the big old wild shot. He went wild. Menefield waits, and then blast double leg right under. Because when the guy's this reckless, he's going to create those openings, right? Everything he's throwing is high up. So when he goes high up, you got to jump under. And that's exactly what he does. He gets the easy takedown the second time. But you can see Menefield use a lot of energy there. His body language is suggesting that he's starting to tire a little bit. He did nothing with the position the first time he got to the ground. So is still not really confident in this position the second time, but as soon as he gets it, then he just immediately looks to pass, and he just happens to slide right into the crucifix. Love the crucifix. Love the crucifix because if you have no ground game, which Mozarov did have no ground game, there's really no way of escaping it. You're just kind of sitting there. And then how many times have you seen, well, other than Gary Goodrich, Paul Herrera, holy fuck, but how many times have you seen the crucifix, especially the traditional crucifix like this, where they're pounding, and the guy goes out? Doesn't happen that often. What happens is the ref says, defend yourself, and the dude will just move his face from side to side, eating small shots, and then they save you, and then you're always frustrated. Oh, god damn it. You just couldn't get out of the position. When Mozarov's out, he got smashed up. At first, there's short shots, a couple decent little elbows, a couple short shots, and then he's flat out. Herb could have stopped the fight a little earlier. It took like 2 or 3 unnecessary shots, but I think he come in as public enemy number 1. He says, well, he's Ukrainian, so everyone's like, oh, the guy's country is, blah, blah. But He shows up speaking Russian at the press conference, even though he knew how to speak English, has spent a large majority of time in Russia, goes on record to say, well, I was living in Thailand. That's why I'm fighting in the UFC. But if I wasn't in Thailand right when the UFC called, I'd be in Ukraine fighting for my home country. That seems like a lie to me, right? Because a lot of guys went back to the Ukraine when shit went down. And I can't say I would. That's a very scary premise to be like, I'm going to risk my life to fight a country in Russia that's bigger and stronger than us and is being aggressive. A hard thing to agree to, right? So I'm not going to call this guy a coward if he would have just said, shit, man, I don't want to go over there and fight in the war. I get that. But it felt fraudulent to me that he was saying, oh, well, I would be defending my country if not for the fact that I was in Thailand doing Muay Thai and then the UFC called. And, the best thing I can do is represent my country in the UFC. But he's speaking Russian at the press conference, and he spent a large amount of time in Russia. And his last fight before this one was in Russia. So, no, you weren't going to go defend your country. And then he says, oh, they call me Ukrainian Conor McGregor. Who calls you Ukrainian Conor McGregor? Because you have no ground game? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Conor's actually a well-rounded martial artist. The thing is that you make him fight Khabib Nurmagomedov and Dustin Poirier. Of course, you can make memes of the guy. Well, we lost. He fought some of the best guys in the world. Okay. No, not this guy. This guy was like straight up fraudulent. So it's nice when things come together. Had I lost this fight, I already thought about it. I already had I didn't spell the tweet out ready to go, but it was already in my head. I was like, if I lose this, it's another top ticket loss. My humiliating losing streak continues. People are losing faith in me. I get it. If I go hard on Menefield here, Menefield shits in the apple pie and this random guy loses, that means I can't even win a fixed fucking fight. That's how bad it would have been. Because this guy, he knew I'm going to chuck 3 bombs and then look for a way out. And he went unconscious. So it's not like he fully quit, but it's just nice when things fall into place, right? Because they don't always. And I wish my top ticket was Karine Kovacevic and Alonzo Menefield. I really wish it did. One of them, I liked the read, didn't pull the trigger. One of them, I liked the read, did pull the trigger. I was just happy that those actually did come together. Cody Osborne versus Rook Adashev, second fight of the main card, sorry. Odie's got the 7-inch reach advantage. I think a lot of us figured that would end up being a key part of it. He doesn't really fight like a long fighter, and they are in the apex, so maybe that long reach wasn't really as pronounced as a lot of us thought it might be. But against Rook Adashev, I don't know. Is he a world-class kickboxer? Can he grapple? Does he have the intangibles to make a well-rounded guy? I don't know. With Ode, he is fast. He's explosive. I'd say he's a good athletic fighter. His footwork's not bad. His wrestling, even though not elite, not world-class, he's not like the physically strongest guy just because of the way his frame is. But he can wrestle. His striking's okay. He's getting more comfortable. 125 definitely is weight class. And of course, maybe he's got a little bit of ground game and some grappling that he can bank off as well. I do expect him to get tired the longer this fight goes. He tends to get tired in all of his fights the longer they go. But with Adashev, again, he looked tired against Ryan Benoit his last time out. So probably thinking, hopefully Ode Osborne's up 2 rounds going to the third, and then we get a sloppy third round. But I don't know if he looked really good here or if Adashev looked really bad here, but the fight never really got started. Starts out, Adashev throws a couple kicks, tries to back him. Ode's not fighting long, but he is fighting fast, and he's beating him to the punch a little bit. And then short little counter right hook, I think. Adashev steps in, short little hook catches him, drops him to the ground. On one hand, it's tough when you're Adashev. You're coming from a kickboxing pedigree. You competed for Glory Kickboxing, the world's premier kickboxing organization, even though you're like, well, now he's 4-4 in MMA. You got a bad MMA record, but you are a kickboxer. That is your one saving grace. And maybe like you could get your cots, you could parlay that into working on your ground skills and becoming a decent contender within the division. The difference is Giga, one hell of a chin. Adashev, I'm not so sure. Tyson Nam had knocked him out in 25 seconds in his UFC debut, and now Ode Osborne's knocked him out in 1 minute and 1 second. So you've got 2 knockout losses in the UFC in about a minute, 125 seconds, 101. Bad, but Tyson Nam known for his power punching, but no volume. Ode Osborne, explosive. I don't know for sure that I would say he's known for his power punching, but I would say Adashev's chin's not great, and his main primary weapon is his kickboxing. How he would win a fight would be to stand and trade for 15 minutes. And if you can't take the returning fire, you're not going to win that way. You don't have wrestling or grappling to fall back on. 4-4 in MMA, I just don't think it's working out for him. So unfortunately, Adashev, I don't think you'd ever call him a prospect. Like, nobody was really ever that high on him, but he's bust. He's bust. And I don't know what they do with him moving forward, but it'll be low level, whatever it is. Fight a contender series guy, something like that. And for Ode, solid victory, right? It was a good way to, I mean, his only loss at flyweight's Manel Kopp in a fight that he was looking really good in prior to getting caught with the flying knee, which is okay. Manel Kopp does that to people. And then a win over CJ Vergara, that's aged quite well. Follow that up with a first-round knockout win of Adashev. He's getting more comfortable. He's getting some more experience. He is 30, so I don't know that he's going to ever break into that like upper echelon of the division. But at flyweight, there's nobody there. So very, very plausible that you win a couple fights and then they're all of a sudden going to throw you into a situation. So don't be surprised if you see Ode Osborne get like a marquee name in his next time out. Karine Silva versus Pauliano Batello. The unfortunate part is looking at our parlays. So Menafield won, Jackson won. Perfect. Our top ticket hit. We're cool with that. Blanchfield won. We still need Movsar Evloev. Volkov's in our main event, but Joe Salecki won. Tony Gravely's about to fight, or Tony Gravely won. Trezano's still coming. Ode won. KK won. But Karine Silva's on the line with Nicolas Stoltz right at the bottom. So in terms of like single bet stuff, yeah, she was minus 120. I thought that was some decent value. In terms of like the parlays and like the way I like to attack things, the tickets that did have her tend to be pretty much dead for me. So not like the ton of investment in it, but yeah, the read was Karine Silva. The read was that Pauliano Batello, just not somebody you ever want to bet your money on. And Karine Silva looked like she's been turning the corner in her career. Her last two pro MMA losses are at 135 pounds. Now she's down to 125. She's strong. She's physical. She's got good ground game. She's got good striking. I thought she looked very good in the contender series, despite getting bullied for the most of it. Her perseverance is solid. Her skill set looks solid. Just hoping that translates over. The first round starts a little bit tentative, I would say, on both sides. Karine Silva looked a little bit smaller than I thought. I didn't think the weigh-ins looked terrible. Again, I think she's only like 5'2", so she's not particularly big, but just like bone density, like muscle mass, like she seemed a little bit smaller than Batello. And I thought if this thing does play out longer, maybe Batello is able to grind, but we're still early in this fight. Nothing much has happened. What you do see is Karine Silva staying to the outside using leg kicks, short little leg kicks, touching the leg, touching the leg, touching the leg. And for Pauliano Batello, she's one and done. We talked about this in the preview show. Everything she throws is one jab, one kick, one jab, one right hand. No combinations. She's not using her footwork to cut off the ring. She's mostly chasing or standing there. Now, I don't understand this because the commentating team's like, oh, she looks like she's having fun tonight. Oh, she just looks like she's enjoying herself and she's smiling. That's weird. Why are you smiling? You know, it's like Chael Sonnen says, I've experienced every range of emotion in a fist fight. Not one of them ever helped me out. So you might be having a good time, smiling. Oh, happy to be here. But your opponent, no. They call her Killer Karine. She's here for a reason. She's here to take care of business. She's looking to fuck your shit up. That's just how it is. That's the name of the game. And you might be having a good time and smiling and feeling yourself and trying to hit that flow state. But Karine Silva was all business. And I think Batello just kind of got a little bit lackadaisical in there. Her defense would primarily be like, you know, she was responding to all the feints, right? And she would cause her head to come up, her hands to go a little bit low. She's a sitting target. She's not throwing anything back. And she's not getting Karine Silva's respect. At first, I'm thinking size discrepancy. But the longer this first round's going, Batello's just not getting anything going, and you can see Karine Silva starting to gain confidence. Like, yo, she's not doing anything. Yo, I just kicked her twice. She didn't do anything. Now it's like you're feeling overconfident. You haven't got no respect from your opponent. Like, they haven't earned your respect by hitting you with anything significant. It's like time to step in the pocket and throw something. She steps in and is blasted Batello. Batello hits the ground right away. Silva lives up to her nickname, Killer, and just pounces right on her. And that Darce choke, I mean, thing of beauty. It was tight. Batello did manage to tap, but she's pretty much out when the choke gets released. Like, she's discombobulated, has no idea where she's at, and almost face plants back in the mat. Like, that's as close to choked unconscious as you're going to get while still being, I don't know, not coherent, but like not being completely unconscious, I suppose. Good win for Karine Silva. She demonstrated she's got some power standing. She fought extremely patient, didn't rush anything, let it happen. I think that's exactly what she did in the contender series as well. Stayed patient, waited for her moment, and she's shown you that she's got some power. She's got some decent enough striking, a good ground game, some of the factors in the division. 125 needs contenders. She's perhaps not necessarily a contender right this very moment, but 6-fight winning streak, getting more comfortable, UFC win. all good stuff. I think she'll probably develop into a contender. And then for Pauliano Batello, like, I don't know what to tell you. It's been like, it's kind of been like this all the time, right? She might win a fight, then she'll lose her next one. She struggles to put consistency together. She's lost to pretty much the okay competition that she does fight. And she just really hasn't thrived in any aspect of the game. If you're going to come in here with a new wrinkle, I'm going to throw combinations. I'm going to use my footwork. I'm going to show some of the things that I've corrected in camp. You got to make corrections. Nobody cares if you lose. It's not boxing. You can go ahead and you lose. It's how do you come back from the loss? Did you learn anything from the loss? Patello's just stuck in her ways, right? So I don't see anything there, and Karine Silva gets the victory. Lucas Almeida versus Mike Trizano. So now it's a gut check. We need Mike Trizano. Probably wouldn't normally care because he's on the fourth line. But because the fifth line's already hit, Cody Grayley, who's on him with the fourth line, is hit, and everything above that to this point is hit. Trizano, he stands to make this 1632 ticket, and he's going to keep a plus 4947 ticket alive underneath him. Just needs to go and get the job done. But again, I talked about this on the preview show. I didn't love Mike Trizano. He's a slow starter. In fact, he doesn't throw enough volume for my liking. He's a striker. His victories are going to come by being in a striking battle. He's not out wrestling guys. He's not out grappling them. He needs to outstrike them. In order to outstrike somebody for 15 minutes, you need to land more punches than they land on you. That's the way it goes. Or at least land the big ones. But Trizano's just super low output. And what you can see with Almeida on tape is that he's certainly a go-getter. I mean, he throws caution to the wind. His fight in the Contender Series was absolutely nuts that first round. And even in his last fight in the regional before, he comes at you. You can try to neutralize him, but the second that you let go of him and you give him that open space, he throws kicks, he throws punches, he's fast, he's aggressive, and we're going to need him to tire out. Maybe he's going to have a good first round, but the longer the fight goes, Trizano's got 5 fights in the UFC. He won the Ultimate Fighter season 27. He's fought Hakeem Dawodu. He's the more experienced guy. He's the better guy. He'll persevere the longer the fight goes. First round, Almeida's doing exactly what I think he was going to do. He's faster, he's sharper, and he's just more aggressive. He's just throwing more. Trizano would stand there and eat 2-3 leg kicks and then land a jab. Oh, that's good. Good stuff. Good stuff. You landed a jab. You got kicked 3 times. The judges see that he's outworking you. You're not doing anything to correct it. It's a round that's going Almeida's way. And then 30 seconds left. Trizano, bam, beautiful left hook. He lands a partial, a glancing knee right up the middle. It topples over Almeida. He jumps right on him. His corner is just shouting like, hey, man, let him up. Let him up. Like, he's hurt. But it's not great advice for the simple reason that there's only like 30 seconds left in the round. By the time you let him up, he stays there and lies at you. The ref looks at him and says, up, up. The guy gets up and he says, go. What do you have, 5 seconds to attack him? The move was just 30 seconds left. Just smash him in the face with elbows until the round ends. So Trizano stays on top. He smashes him some elbows. He has now effectively stolen back the round, right? It wasn't like it was a runaway round for Almeida, but Almeida was winning it. And then Trizano lands that beautiful left hook, partial knee, gets the knockdown. We're cool with that. First round, Mike Trizano. Second round, Trizano, he's staying from the outside. He's not throwing, right? He's just staying there and he's waiting for Almeida to get off first. Now Almeida's kicking it. Almeida's staying rangy. And Almeida's staying long. And Almeida's a little bit faster than him. So he gets frustrated in the second round and decides, you know what? I'm just going to step right into the pocket and brawl. That's a bad move. The second he stepped in that pocket and went to go brawl, Almeida beat him to the punch, clipped him with a beautiful shot. Now he drops Trizano, gets on top of him. Credit to Trizano, survives on the ground, right? Catches his wits, gets recollected, scrambles, gets back up, and ends the last 20 seconds in the round, fighting back, doing some decent work. Loses the round for sure, but it's a 1-1. It's a 1-1 going to the third. It's a gut check. I don't think he's super tired. I don't think he's super hurt. It's like you got to make some slight adjustments, and you need to fight a good third round. You can win this fight. For Almeida, he's fought a pretty decent first 2 rounds. I mean, he was winning the first and he got clipped. He won the second round, dropped him, did some excellent work. But we're expecting him to tire out. So he's got an opportunity to show us what he's made out of, and Trizano's got an opportunity to show us what he's made out of. And the round starts, and Almeida wants it more. I mean, his cardio is actually good. I definitely underestimated it. His speed was an advantage all night. He's beaten him with the punch. He's beaten him with the leg kicks. He's beaten him with the right hand. And Trizano, who probably doesn't remember getting dropped in the second, but does the exact same shit. He just steps right into the pocket and tries to throw 2 wild hooks. It's almost the same situation as the second. Like, steps in the pocket, hands down, trying to throw hooks, beat to the punch, crumpled over. And he tried to do it in the third. He maybe could have won staying to the outside and just throwing a little bit more. Get the leg kicks, work your jab, press this guy. Even though you might not be able to take him down, get him up against the cage. Try to take him down. Press him there. I know they're not rewarding pressing guys up against the cage, but it's 1-1. You're losing at range. You're losing in the pocket. You got to be able to switch something on the fly. He had zero ability to make any type of ability to switch over from one game plan to the next, from one skill to the next, to blend all the skills together seamlessly. It just wasn't there for him. For Almeida, this is a very quality win, right? You made a debut against a tough winner, guy that's got 5 fights in the UFC, got a little bit of a name for himself. You're not expected to do much. You're the betting underdog, and you go out there and you rightfully so get a nice victory. First guy to ever knock out Trezano. First guy to ever, really solidify the putting him away. Good victory. Good victory. I am going to love fading Lucas Almeida going in the forward. Like, I think he beat Trezano on the basis of Trezano fought the world's worst game plan. But I think somebody else is going to take Almeida. Like, he's still very wild and reckless in his ways. And then for Trezano, you knew after the last couple of fights that he was a bust, and I should have faded him. We talked about it on the previous show. Didn't love him. Didn't like the line. Tried to move him down. But realistically, he won a split decision against Joe Giannetti, who's terrible, right? And then he won a split decision over Luis Pena, no longer with the organization. A lot of legal problems. The good guys he's fought, Grant Dawson, smoked him. Hakeem Dawodu smoked him. Ludovic Klein, who's not doing particularly good in the UFC, it was like a close fight. Beat him in the first round. He's never looked good in any of his UFC fights. At no point was it like that was a good Trezano performance. Not happened. So it's like it's hard to get faith in those guys. I'm not bummed out or nothing because he was my 9th most confident guy. What I am bummed out about is that I had him higher than Grayley. I had him better than Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Osborne, I went to Karine. I still probably would have taken him over Ode Osborne. I don't know, bad feeling there. But like, the read was there for Graveley. I watched the tape. You like Graveley, but is lower on for you, right? KK, you watch the tape. You like the tape. You like KK, but she's lower. I watched the tape in Trezano. I didn't fucking like him, right? I talked to Paul about it, and I was like, he's going to have problems. He's likely going to lose the first round. And still, I know it's 4th line, whatever. Maybe I'm being too hard on myself, but you have to be, right? It's like, where did I fuck up and where can I improve? This is one of them. If there was one, my worst read on the entire card, it wasn't that. It was Benoit Saint-Denis versus Nicolas Stoltz was my worst read on the card. But that one hurt because it's like I saw the writing on the wall. I seen it there. Like I could have jumped on it, and I just did not. But that's okay because all we need here is we need a Mozart Evlo of win, which would be huge. Guarantee us the profit for the night. And then if Volkov wins, we'd be good. So like as far as where we're at in the night, it's all good. It's all good. But Trezano in hindsight, apple pie shitter. He was the guy. Mozart Evlo versus Dan Ige. Was tempted to maybe give Ige a little more respect earlier in the week. And then Paul and I discussed on the preview show, like everything's there for Ige live underdog here other than just rewatch that Korean zombie fight. He can't stuff a takedown. He's a state wrestling champion in Hawaii, wrestled a little bit collegiately, Dan Ige. But whenever he takes on a guy at 145 pounds that wants to grapple with him, it don't go his way. He's not physically strong enough at the weight class. He looks like he's got the frame of a 35er, but he's got a cast iron chin and gigantic cojones on him. So he'll sign the dotted line and fight anybody in the division up a weight class. But there's no denying the fact that he's getting outstrengthed, outsized. And the physicality is definitely starting to be there, and it's just wearing on him. And against guys that want to grapple, they're just going to take his best weapon off the table, which is the striking, and just take him down. Even with his striking, maybe he's worried about the takedown, but he just is a little hesitant at times. Doesn't let his hands go. And of course, he's fought world-class strikers where they've beaten the crap out of him standing and then taken him down to boot. But that Korean zombie fight was the complete blueprint. If you were training anybody in the world to fight Dan Ige, well, they would have to know how to wrestle, of course. That's the fight you show them. This is how you beat the guy, the most effortless way to beat him, the cleanest way to beat him, just like this. So you thought Evloev would probably try to test his striking out a little bit, but Chin's good enough to take a couple shots if he needs to, and then he's eventually just going to get this fight to the ground. Better than that, when he does get the fight to the ground, Dan Ige's got a bad issue with giving up his back, and Evloev likes to take the back. So maybe we can get both hooks in. Maybe we can get a body triangle in. But if not, they're just going to do that Russian position where they're just going to ride you, like almost like a one hook in, ride you up against the cage, positionally sound, try to go for a wrist ride, try to take your base away from you, just just consistently knocking you down, right? Taking away your base, not allowing you to get back up. Rinse and repeat. The fight stars, Ige maybe is a slightly better striker, but this is mixed martial arts, not a kickboxing match. Evlov had the grind. He had the ability to take Ige down when he needed to, grind down when he needed to. His striking wasn't even terrible. It's just his ability to blend in his other skills as well. So tough for Ige because all he does is fight the best guys in the game. So it's hard to like shit on him or say he's no good. I think he's very good. I think he's possibly fighting up a weight class, and he's not doing himself any services by fighting Calvin Katers of the world, and then coming back and trying to fight a Korean zombie, and then coming back and trying to fight a Movsar Evloev. Like, holy shit, man, give the guy a break. Like, give him a couple tune-ups, give him a couple confidence boosters, and then we can feed him back to these guys. I don't even know if he can make 35. Like, that's just my assumption, is that he's like small for 45. But like, if he could, I would say give that a consideration. If not, you've turned into a fringe 15 gatekeeper, which is no shame in that, dude. This is a tough division. It's a lot of good fights for Dan Ige out there, but there was an expectation maybe a year or two ago that this guy could blossom into a legitimate talent, and now it's like he's been roadblocked. And that brings us to the main event, Alexander Volk. Oh yeah, and for Evlov, what do you want to know? He's 16-0. Like, is he the next Khabib? No, but his striking is good enough to beat guys that can't strike. His wrestling is good enough to beat guys that can't wrestle. He himself is very well-rounded. So most of the guys he's fighting, he can use one of those skill sets to exploit the other guy. Do I think there's guys that beat Evlov in the division? Absolutely. But the UFC's done a fairly good job of like matching him up somewhat soft. And considering he's 16-0, right? His wins inside the UFC are Sungwoo Choi. The hell is he up to? Enrique Barzola, my boy. But Barzola no longer with the promotion. He's in Bellator now. Mike Grundy, I don't know if he retired or if he's been released, but it's been a terrible run. Nick Lentz is in his late 30s and has just so much wear and tear and mileage on the body. Not ranked in the top 20, and yet he squeaked out a split. Didn't squeak out. Should have been unanimous, but it is a split decision win. Akeem Dawodu, like, it wasn't a very interesting fight, and Akeem's got his own limitations. Plus, Akeem almost beat him up in the third round. Like, wasn't super clean work. And then Dan Ige. But what the UFC is doing a good job of is that it's like progressively getting tougher. Like, Lentz is better than Grundy, and Hakeem Dawodu is better than Lentz, and Ige is better than Dawodu, and the next guy will be better than Ige. So they're bringing him up slowly and allowing him to develop. He's still only 28 years old, very bright future. I wouldn't call him a prospect because he's already very established within the division, but Movsar Evloev, exciting stuff. So the only way to make the Russian connection better is if you go Alexander Volkov in the main event. Normally, I would have hedged out for sure. Because normally I would have had Volkov on my top ticket, setting up that hedge out opportunity. But one, I just didn't want him on my top ticket. I really didn't. Two, the way the Holly Holm fight ended 2 weeks ago, it's like I'd rather just make my money before the main event, and I could use that money to hedge out if I want to, or I could then say, hey, let it ride. I've already made money. So if Volkov loses, who cares? Already made money. Volkov wins, well, then it's a really good time. So I did put him on the third line. We obviously do need him to win. Had Trezano won, I would have hedged out because I would have had those monster tickets at the end. It would have been worth hedging. But with Trezano out, it's like, it's been a good day. Let's just let this one go. I don't want to just let it ride against Rozenstruik, but we were already okay, I guess. You know, it's heavyweights. He's got a whole lot of power. Like, you're probably not going to feel great about it, but it doesn't matter. Volkov, stayed at the outside, do your thing. He was able to do that. He stayed at the outside, landed some strikes. It frustrated with Yarzina Rozenstruik. I didn't pick him. I don't know a whole lot of guys that actually did pick him, other than maybe like a puncher's chance type thing. But it's almost like Mike Trezano, Pauliano Batello. It's like, you're not changing what's not working for you fight to fight. I don't know the exact saying. Someone can quote it. But it's like, how can you try the same thing over and over and expect a different result, right? That's how I feel about some people in particular, and Yarzina Rozenstruik would be one of them. It's like, what do you bring to the table? It's like, dude, I got the touch of death. If I hit you, you're going down. It's like, very nice, very nice. Can you wrestle? No. What's your cardio like? I don't know. Not all that great. Can you, do you set stuff up? Do you, I don't know, you got heart, you got, well, like, what are your intangibles as a fighter? Only thing this guy's got is power. So it's like, okay, then you need to let your hands go. Throw that power. You know who the other guy that only has power? Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis has got heart too, though. That's a big difference. But Lewis has got the big power, so he waits on you, and then he cracks you. But he will crack you at some point. Rozenstruik, he just waits, doesn't do anything. And I was worried with Volkov because, again, Volkov fought Lewis, and he kicked his ass for 4 minutes and 55 seconds and then got clipped. So in a 5-round main event in the Apex, it was possible Volkov was going to chip away at Rozenstruik and then get clipped. But I don't know. How can you bet on Rozenstruik when he doesn't let his hands go? Like, it's a fist fight. You're here to beat the guy. I know he can knock out anybody in the world, but he can only knock them out if he punches them. And he can only punch them if he lets his hands go, which he just doesn't seem to do. I didn't think it was going to be a Volkov first-round knockout, but I'll admit, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I would never say a guy took a dive, not in the UFC. You see dives on other promotions, sadly enough. In the UFC, the guy didn't take a dive, but it was like he willingly accepted his fate. And then as the ref stops it, had the audacity to complain to the ref, like, whoa, I'm fine. Dude, you mean you're fine? You're out. You're not defending yourself. You're down on one knee. You're up against the cage. I could have allowed him to knock you completely unconscious, and then I would have taken the heat for allowing you to take that extra beating. So instead, I saved you. You're not defending yourself. You're not trying to fight back. In fact, you're not even really trying to fight this guy to begin with, and you want to complain, and then release a statement after the fact saying, don't agree with the stoppage. Well, fortunately, my friend, everybody else agrees with the stoppage, unless they just want to see straight violence, seeing a guy get bodied, because he wasn't doing anything. Volkov looked good. Volkov looked good, like he was willing to go out there and get hit if need be, but he played long. He played smart. He allowed Rozenstruik to miss with the couple punches that he did throw. He attacked the body very nicely. And then as soon as the first moment he landed something that glanced on Rozenstruik, it felt to me like Rozenstruik packed it in. So I don't ever want to see Jairzinho in a 5-round main event ever again. He's a 3-round fighter at best. And like, they need to be giving him Parker Porter. They need to be giving him Josh Parisian. They need to be giving him bottom of the barrel heavyweights that he could go out there and have a fun fight with, because otherwise he just stands there and stares at them. And I don't know. I'm actually kind of sick of watching the guy. Like, his losses, Volkov, he did nothing. He's not entertaining. The Curtis Blades fight, he did nothing. It was not entertaining. The Cyril Gane fight, maybe the worst, one of the worst you've ever seen. So unbelievably boring. The Francis Ngannou fight, he got knocked out 20 seconds into the round. The Alistair Overeem fight, he lost 4 of the 5 rounds, but ends up blowing the guy's lip up with 4 seconds left on the clock. He's not good. He's not good. I think we can all realize that now. He's got power. He's a threat. The guy's not good. Volkov, he's a little bit older. He's got some flaws, but this is his fight to win. And now, thankfully, he went up there and got the victory. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not been the greatest run the last month or two. You know, you get main events wrong. You get some bad luck. Someone gets hurt. You get a bad decision. Whatever the case may be, you can sit here and you make excuses about it all the time. But, you know, if this is something you like to do and you're passionate about it, then do the tape, do the research, check out the options, check out what everybody brings to the table. And even on these little greasy cards, you can still turn them profitable. Of course, the fights were entertaining, but always more entertaining when you got some live action. That Damon Jackson, the way my heart was pumping the start of that 3rd round, the Damon Jackson fight, like, even though I'm stressed and my reputation's on the line, my money's on the line, Jackson's a minus 650 favorite, my heart is pumping. And then when they announced he's won and you're all happy about it, it was like, that's why you fucking do it, right? Even in the bad moments, it's all part of the thrill. It's a roller coaster. You're like, holy shit, I'm going to die. And then at the end of it, you're like, let's do it again. Like, what do you mean, let's do it again? You thought you were going to die. You're like, I did think I was going to die. And that shot of adrenaline woke me up. So I was happy with the results from yesterday. Hopefully we can do it again next week. We do have those 10 consecutive weeks. So 9 more to go. You know, optimistic Cody says, let's go 9 more straight. Realistic Cody says, let's go 9 more straight. Starts this Wednesday. So I'll catch you guys in the preview show. All the best. Thanks for catching up the recap. Thanks to the Mayo Media Network giving me the platform. And, of course, DraftKings Sportsbook for sponsoring the show. I will catch you guys next week, and hopefully we can do it all again. Till the next time. Oh, oh, oh. Oh.